You know, every so often, I get an email that stops me in my tracks. Most of the time, people write in to share their strange camping experiences or weird encounters in the woods. But this one chilled me to the bone. The email came from a woman who had been camping alone near Snowdonia, Wales. She thought she was prepared for the trip, but nothing could have prepared her for what she faced over those 3 nights. What you're about to hear is her story, written exactly as she told it. And trust me, you might want to leave the lights on for this one. Not one to scare easily. I've been camping alone plenty of times. But this was different. It all happened just last summer, in a place I thought I knew well, deep in the woods near Snowdonia, Wales. The trees, the hills, the cool breeze, they all felt like home. Or so I thought. I'd heard the stories before, sure. People around here whisper about these woods being haunted, but I didn't believe any of it. How could I? I grew up listening to ghost stories around campfires, and I always just laughed them off. But after what I went through, I can't laugh anymore. It was my 3rd day camping out there. I'd found this perfect little spot off the trail, right next to a stream. It was quiet, peaceful, everything I wanted. The first night was uneventful, just the usual sounds of nature. The wind rustling through the trees, owls calling out in the dark. It was exactly the kind of solitude I craved. But then, the second night came. That's when the noises started. At first I thought it was just the wind, you know? A gust blowing through the trees. But it wasn't. It was too deliberate, too steady, like footsteps. Slow, heavy footsteps, moving just beyond the light of my campfire. I sat there, frozen for a bit, listening. I could feel my heart starting to race, but I tried to shake it off. It's just an animal, I told myself. Probably a deer, maybe a fox. I wasn't in the middle of nowhere after all. But something about the way those steps sounded, they didn't feel right. They stopped for a while, and I thought that was the end of it. But when I went to bed, I could still hear it. The sound of something moving, closer this time. I grabbed my flashlight and shone it around the tent. But there was nothing, just the trees swaying in the wind. The 3rd night was when it all went wrong. I decided to pack up and leave early the next morning. There was this feeling in the air, like I wasn't alone. But as soon as it got dark, those footsteps came back, louder, closer. I lit a fire again, hoping it would scare off whatever was out there. But it didn't stop. The steps kept circling my camp, pacing back and forth just beyond the firelight. That's when I heard the breathing. It was faint, but unmistakable. This low, raspy breathing, almost like it was right behind me. I spun around with my flashlight, and that's when I saw it. There, just outside the beam of my light, was a shape. It was tall, impossibly tall, maybe 8 feet or more. But it wasn't just the height. Its body was twisted, deformed, like something that wasn't supposed to be walking on 2 legs but forced itself to. I couldn't make out any details at first, just the silhouette, but I could feel its eyes on me, watching. Then, before I could react, it moved, fast. It charged at me, barreling through the trees like they weren't even there. I screamed, grabbed my gear, and ran as fast as I could, not caring where I was going. My legs felt like lead, but the adrenaline pushed me forward. I didn't dare look back, but I could hear it behind me, crashing through the underbrush, its breathing growing louder, more ragged. I don't know how long I ran, but I eventually tripped, fell hard, scraping my hands on the rocky ground. That's when I felt it, its hand on my leg, cold, clammy, with these long, bony fingers that wrapped around my ankle like a vice. I screamed again, kicked as hard as I could, but it was no use. It dragged me through the woods, my body scraping against rocks and branches. I tried to fight, but it was too strong. The last thing I remember before blacking out was the sound of its breathing, so close, almost in my ear. When I woke up, I was in a cave. It was cold, damp, and pitch black. My head was pounding, and I had no idea where I was. I tried to move, but my whole body hurt. My backpack was gone. My gear was gone. Everything. I was alone. For 2 days, I stayed in that cave, too scared to leave. Every few hours, I could hear it. Those footsteps. that breathing just outside, like it was waiting for me to come out. I was sure it would come back for me, drag me deeper into the cave, or worse. But then, on the third day, the sound stopped. I waited as long as I could before finally crawling out of there. The woods were quiet, almost too quiet. The trail was gone, and I had no idea where I was, but I didn't care. I just ran. Somehow, I made it back to civilization. People didn't believe me at first, but I swear, something's out there, something that isn't human.